Hey, Paul.
Hey, guys.
What's happening, man?
Yeah, first show for the year.
Should we jump right in? Because there's some hot news with FlySafair. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Let's do it.
All right, so should we start off with some good stuff? Right, FlySafair has been named the most on-time airline in the Middle East and Africa for 2024. It achieved 93.82% of its flights arriving on time. That's quite a thing, actually. And that's not from some rinky-dink data. That's from Cirium. FlySafair outperformed major airlines like Qatar and Emirates. It's also the most on-time regional carrier for 11 out of the 12 months last year.
With some serious performance.
It is.
But they've always been known and held a good record for the OTP. So, yeah, well done on that aspect.
Yeah, a lot to be proud of them for that, because it's on-time. It's actually all about on-time performance, Paul.
Yeah.
Okay? And I think a lot of their success is obviously based on that. And the reason I started with that story is because that's to do with their product. Their product is very, very good.
Yeah.
And but going into some of these aren't news stories. This was we spoke about it a lot towards the end of last year, but it's just going on and on and on. Obviously, the ruling from the Air Service Licensing Council stating it's non-compliance. Okay, that's to do with foreign ownership.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing here is not so much that story, because that story's been there for a while. It's the divide, particularly in South Africa, between the people that are like, well, those are the rules. You must stick to the rules. And then the others saying, but hang on, guys, this is an awesome airline that we can be proud of. While we all pointing fingers, they must bloody change the laws if they have to.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's an interesting one, because I'm not sure where you fall on the whole thing.
It is interesting. I've noticed over the last 4 to 6 weeks that since that Air Services Licensing Council became more of an issue, there has definitely been, like you say, more of a divide in the who's pro-Safair and who's against them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we know over the December period there was all sorts of... the hottest topic in December was the passenger that got a bit disruptive. No flying knobs. But yeah, then this overbooking saga. It is... I get the impression there's a lot of heat being thrown at FlySafair, and yeah.
Some of it warranted, some of it not, type of vibe.
Also can't really make up my mind as to whether it's competition related or isn't it,
Yeah, I'm sort of the same. I can't quite, and I see a post from someone, and then I go, yeah, that makes sense. And then someone else posts something the complete opposite, and I go, yeah, I don't know what side I fall on. But I'll tell you what I don't like. The other bit of negative news that came out was to do with overbooking of flights. And it follows a complaint from a passenger who was left stranded. Probably stranded for 20 minutes because their frequency is so high. But having paid for their tickets, FlySafair admitted to overbooking in order to keep ticket prices low and offered compensation to affected passengers. Have you ever heard O'Leary speak?
It's common practice.
Yeah,
airlines
it's
do
common
it all
practice,
over the world.
particularly for a low cost.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. So Kirby Gordon responded to that. I didn't actually see the response, but what it looks like is his response had something to do with, okay, well, all the other airlines do that. Of course, the other airlines then jumped on the bandwagon, and they've now posted things to say we are not in the practice of overbooking flights, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You can read as much into that as you want. But I don't know why he just didn't say, yeah, Ryanair wrote the playbook on this. If you want to be a successful low cost, this is what you do.
Yeah.
You made the comment before we came in. Their frequency is so high.
It's actually,
You're
they
gonna
can afford to do it. I went and spoke to someone who's got a bit of knowledge and experience on this in the industry. And I asked her, I said, look, did your previous airline do it? She said, absolutely. It's common practice. In fact, they had a policy for how they handled the situation. It was quite interesting. She obviously dealt with long haul and domestic issues or routes like this. But funny enough, like overbooking on a long haul flight, some airlines will have a policy for a first class passenger, they can overbook by about 1 passenger, for business class up to 5, and then for economy class up to 20 seats.
That's insane.
However, the airlines have a very specific formula as to how they work out their no-show policy and how they can gauge how far they can overbook. And it's a seasonal thing as well. So, yeah, going back to what I said originally, it is common practice. And no doubt most airlines will have a policy for how you institute the overbooking policy.
Yeah, it'll be in your terms and conditions.
Yeah. I think where the trick falls in is how is the situation handled? You know, when a passenger now gets to the boarding gate and then gets told, listen, sorry, you know, the flight's overbooked, you're being bumped now. That's probably where things get heated and escalated.
More so in South Africa. 2001, I was overseas catching a Ryanair flight from Salzburg to Stansted. We were late. We got bumped with a few other oaks. No one cared.
Yeah.
Half an hour later, we were on another flight. We arrived half an hour later. It's a bigger deal. Social media doesn't help as well.
No.
Some clown, you know, makes a comment and then now you have to answer. I don't dig it. I won't lie to you. I find it all a little bit immature, this whole thing. Safair they're probably going to go to court over the licensing council thing.
Yeah.
A court will rule in favor of them or not. Looks like it's not going to go their way, because there was something, I think, about 2013 way back where there were some issues with foreign ownership that they didn't let the licensing council know or something like that. Certainly not an expert on that subject, but that the court ruled against them then. So I don't see how it will be any different this time around. But if it does go to court and the court rules either way, your opinion, what we say here and what any opposition or any people on social media say means squat.
Exactly.
So it might as well just get to that point and we see what happens. Or they take it very seriously and they decide, look, it's the best interest of ourselves as a company, our employees, everyone to change our structure so that we can be compliant and just carry on. But I don't think this has anything to do with the likes of like a Kirby Gordon or the people there. This is going to be shareholder level.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the managers and the local guys. Yeah, that's what I think.
I want to go back to something that you started off with. I wholeheartedly agree. They do offer a fantastic product, and you know, that's where their reputation comes from. I think most people have got a fair amount of loyalty to the airline because of the product that they offer. I also don't like the fact that the other airlines kind of like want to diss them or kick a dog when it's down kind of thing. You know, I've always firmly believed, I think the airlines should work together, stick together. And
do you not think they saw it as an opportunity though?
It's like, of course it is.
It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek type of thing. You drop the ball, and we're gonna come after you. And so I hear your point there, but on a business level, how many businesses work together these days?
Yeah, no,
they don't. They're all fighting for such a small piece of the pie that if they do something wrong, they're gonna, you know, the other airlines probably have to go. Take. Who was the first to come out with the overbooking thing? Was it Seme or Airlink? Airlink posted something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It could be the other way around, but very shortly afterwards, you probably find Seme was there going, shit, if we don't put something out, then people are going to think that, you know, we maybe haven't heard anything from Lyft.
Yeah.
Do they want to keep quiet? You know what I mean? So Seme don't overbook flights, but if they don't say anything, then the clients or the general public might think, hey, they haven't said anything. So obviously the only airline here that doesn't overbook flights is Airlink.
Yeah.
Seme better get something out to say, hey, we do not overbook flights, despite what was said by this opposition manager.
Yeah.
So they're trying
It's
to cover their own side as well, and it's so difficult to make money in aviation, and you're fighting over such a small slice.
Yeah.
So it's, as we started off, it's a difficult one to fall on, and we're certainly not on the pod going to come after any of the airlines to say you right, you wrong, because the truth is it's a bit of a complicated one. If they are in the wrong and they are against the law, then they're going to have to change it. But then the court will decide, not the keyboard samurais on social media.
True story. Anyway.
But let's jump into something a bit cooler. How was your break, pal?
Hey, my December break was awesome. I absolutely loved it. Got to spend plenty of time with the kiddies.
Yeah.
Had an awesome time. And could have been another 3 weeks if I had the choice.
Yeah, we were a bit unlucky with the weather, eh?
Yeah. So
the weather sucked, in Joburg over December. But yeah, same. I had an awesome break. I've done something cool in the studio. You can see on Ryan's side there. We're going to fill it up with stuff from the kiddies. So mine looks like a version 2.0 business plan. But kids had fun doing some painting for the studio. Was an awesome break and much needed. Take this opportunity as well to explain a couple of little elements we're going to be adding to the show. You'll see later on in this first episode as well. Not going to go into it too deep because Ryan and I explained it individually during the little segment, but trying to add to the pod, trying to keep making it better. If you're not trying to make it better, you dead in the water. So a couple of little extra segments. The idea from my side is an interest of mine has always been the sort of motivational side of aviation and taking a few principles from the aviation industry that can be used in everyday life. And Paul, on your side?
Yeah, look, I had some time now in the break to just explore a few things, and it's something I've also always been very interested in. Never really took the opportunity to dive into it, but I started getting into it over the break, and going to see where it goes. It's
looking forward to it. So you'll see a segment from myself after the news, and then one from Ryan as well. So exciting things. Let us know what you think, and if you'd like to see more of it. But carrying on with the news, December, as much as you and I were having a cool break, aviation industry was in tatters there from a safety perspective for a while. Someone said to me, geez, a pity you guys aren't doing the pod because there's so much to talk about. And I said, yeah, not actually, because there's no ways we're going to speculate on an accident before some official report comes out. And so we're not going to do that. But it didn't look good from a aviation safety perspective, did it?
Funny enough, I also thought, shucks, if we were doing the pod in December, same thing, there was plenty to talk about. But what I noticed was there was so many YouTubers jumping on the bandwagon to speculate about each individual incident that took place. Some of them were pretty interesting. They had good points to raise, but it was just like amazing at how quickly guys are jumping onto these things now and coming up with threads and theories. And
do you find people are able to draw a lot more information now because of you got Flight Radar 24 and you've got all the ADS-B data, and so you're able to see this and sort of speculate straight away, draw your own conclusions. You can make yourself a graphic model of what happened. But it tainted a relatively good year because there wasn't much. There was some at the beginning of 2024 and then nothing, and then all these sort of in a row at the end.
No, it was hectic, man. Very, very unfortunate. It wasn't a nice way to end 2024 off with, so many pranks.
Yeah, in the news article here, it says, despite these incidents, overall safety trends over the past decade do not show a significant decline. It's worth noting that 2023 was the safest year in the history of global commercial air transport. I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, but also I think 2023 was also still kind of in the recovery phases there, so there wasn't as much happening. You take 2024 now and 2025 with the amount of flying that's going on, the numbers are bound to increase. But
true. This how do you say it? Jeju
Airlines, yeah.
Jeju Air. Both flight recorders failed to capture the last 4 minutes of the flight.
That's a bit suspect.
That is suspect. So there's two schools of thought they were going to now. But the plane overran the runway, collided with that localizer structure. That was horrific because it was captured on video and broadcast everywhere.
Really sad because in so many ways it's like that was almost avoidable.
Yeah, without that structure there, it could have been a far different scenario. The cockpit voice recorder was intact, but the flight data recorder had a damaged connector. Both recorders stopped storing data for 4 minutes before the crash. The Korean Ministry of Transport is working with the NTSB to find out why the data was lost. So it can only be lost for two things. Correct me if I'm wrong. If it was tampered with, like they don't want that data handed over, or there was just a total and utter power failure.
Yeah.
Like full. Which seems more likely.
That's more plausible given the fact that, I mean, they literally did a go around, sort of made a short circuit and then
it's weird.
Back on the runway. It's weird.
So we're going to wait. We're not going to speculate on that at all because it. But
what does make it a bit weird is just 2 days later, another aircraft, same type, also had landing gear issues. So there was a lot of articles trending towards like, what's the operator up to? Anyway, like you said, far be it from us to.
We'll wait and see. Airlink has cancelled its flights to Nampula. Is that still going on? This was probably a few days ago. Due to a legal claim that could lead to the seizure of its aircraft in Mozambique. The claim was made by 2 passengers who were removed from a flight for unruly behavior. This unruly behavior thing
is becoming
such a common thing. If you have a look on X about all the unruly passengers happening in the states as well, it's ludicrous, but it is unacceptable. It's almost too lenient. There was one last year, wasn't there? Another one on a Semair flight last year.
Early last year, yeah.
And it was sort of, again, sort of two sides. How can you treat someone like... If you are misbehaved on an aircraft, then the law needs to come into place and you need to face the serious consequences there, because it's now... What happens if... a family member of yours is sitting in the seat above, and then there's a bit of slinging going on, and it's absolute nonsense, and it's a disgrace to act like that in public, and it should be totally and utterly obliterated.
Of course.
But then you get, it's actually the last story, but I'm going to read it now anyway. Khabib Nurmagomedov, who's arguably the GOAT of MMA. He's undefeated, beat Conor McGregor a couple of times. He's sitting in an emergency exit on a Frontier Airlines flight, peacefully sitting there with a couple of members of his team, and he gets told to move. So he's sort of arguing, well, not arguing, he was very respectful. He said, why must I move? And it looks like it had something to do with maybe his English wasn't as sharp as it should be for a emergency exit holder of an A320 or whatever it was. And you just think, well, there's probably no better person in the world to be sitting in an emergency exit than a UFC world champion who could help people get out that plane should they need to.
Yeah.
Oak's as tough as nails. He's a big guy. The ideal person that you want there.
What do they call an able-bodied person?
Yeah,
You know?
he's seriously able-bodied. He's way more able-bodied than you and me.
Yeah.
So that could have, imagine that escalated. That could have become a big thing. He didn't. He just got off the plane. But it's like, okay, there are a lot of these incidents going on. They must not be provoked either. The Safair one certainly wasn't provoked.
No, that wasn't provoked. And look, from what I can see out of the articles, it looks like they've done the right thing. She's on a no-fly list. That's interesting, though, because I wanted to know, is it a no-fly list that applies to all airlines? Or is it just
I think it's just Safair, to be honest.
One of the airlines will pick her up and take her back to Durban. But there was lots of jokes because they were trying to do like a GoFundMe to get her
Uber Black
back to Durban. Yeah, but why behave like that? I mean,
it's so stupid. But anyway, this Airlink story over Mozambique seems rather pathetic, and these guys obviously trying to take a chance on Airlink.
Yeah,
Not going to pick a fight with them.
Yeah,
They're
but
going to lose.
Mozambique of all places, there's a lot of political nonsense going on there at the moment. So
that place is a chamos. Isn't the border closed?
I think there was a lot of warnings about travelers being warned not to go through the borders at this stage because it's just chaos. And then there was protests in Maputo the other day. So quite sad because Mozambique is very lacquer this time of the year.
It is. Carrying on with unruly packs, Ryanair is suing a disruptive passenger who forced a flight from Dublin to Lanzarote to make an emergency landing in Portugal. The airline is seeking €15,000. That is how you do it. Does Ryanair write the playbook? Hey?
Yeah.
They got this. They got this thing. They know what to do. Same with the overbooking. They do it. Who cares? That's what they do. And the way they respond about it is,
Yeah. €15,000.
Yes, to cover costs from the incidents, including the accommodation for 160 packs. The incident occurred on April the 9th last year and led to significant expenses for Ryanair. The airline aims to deter future disruptive behavior with legal action. 100%. Ryanair's CEO has linked such incidents to excessive drinking and called for stricter limits on alcohol for packs. Well, that I don't agree with.
No. That makes for one very expensive whiskey.
Yeah.
Yes. €15,000. Yeah, that'll seat it.
That oak's paying accommodation for 160 oaks.
Yes.
That sucks balls.
Oh.
Emirates criticized TikTok and X for not quickly removing a fake AI-generated video of a plane crash. You know when you see these videos? So during all those pranks that happened, there was this Emirates. I don't know if you saw the video. I saw it. It was so obvious this was not
so rinky-dink.
So I didn't even care.
No.
But a lot of people don't see it. They don't see that this is fake. How many times has someone that's a non-aviator sent you something?
Yeah,
like have you seen? And you straight away, there's that video of an aircraft, old one now, but the oak's landing. You can't get the nose wheel out, so the oak and like a Hilux is bombing down the runway. I mean, people think it's real. So they were. You're gonna see more and more of this type of stuff, not just obviously aviation, but across the board. And you've got to be quite vigilant and understanding if you're watching something that's real or not. But this obviously is now, they're criticizing the owners of these platforms to say, hey, if there's something fake like this that can affect our business, you need to pull that down. So, expect to see more of that. Embraer delivered 206 aircraft in 2024. This goes with your point earlier on, Ryan, a 14% increase from the previous year. So deliveries are looking good.
So I was going to say it's good news from Embraer. I mean, they obviously,
Embraer,
I would imagine, capitalizing on Boeing's woes, but they're putting out a good product.
They do have a good product, and they seem to be doing the right things. Maybe it worked out right for them that they didn't ever join
Boeing and
link up with that whatever it was going to be, that JV. They would have been in some hot water now. Boeing, on the other hand, they've announced that up to 574 767s may need landing gear inspections. This decision follows concerns about issues on models after a maintenance incident. The problem was linked to possible heat damage. Yeah. More of the same, eh?
Yeah, exactly. 767s in the next couple of years are also going to become somewhat obsolete, I imagine. They're converting most of them to cargo.
Well, I'm going to fight you on that. I dig a 767. Did you watch? There was a Cockpit Casual the other night.
Yeah,
I'm sure you watched.
No, I did. I absolutely love it. Look, don't get me wrong. I love the type. I think they've been around for a while.
They have.
So they're getting old.
A 757 must be a cool aeroplane to fly. I wonder if our listeners have flown a 757, because that thing must have serious performance.
No, it does. Before the A380, if I'm not mistaken, the 757 was regarded as being one of the most
severe.
Yeah,
wake
turbulence wise. You had to watch out for that. It's a pretty looking area in the sky, but
there's just not many of them around.
No.
Trump's got one.
Yeah, he would.
Trump Force One.
Trumpinator.
Avalon predicts that the global airline industry will earn $1 trillion in revenue by the end of 2025. That's not bad.
Yeah. Could have a piece of that.
The Airbus A330neo is expected to be the most popular wide-body aircraft among airlines, replacing older models. I wouldn't have thought that. It's a nice bit of equipment as well. And Airbus, staying with the OEMs, Airbus CEO has called 2024 a good year despite missing their delivery target. The company delivered 766 aircraft, but they aim for 800. Okay, so they're almost there. They faced challenges like engine shortages, which led to revised targets. Strong demand for new orders, particularly wide-body aircraft. And the last one, Riyadh, getting ready to welcome its first 787-9. Riyadh is still the place to go, bro. I'm telling you now, if you're thinking about going back to fly, Riyadh is your spot to go.
Looks like that's where it's happening. In fact, I saw this morning before the show that they had their Airy parked on the apron there, and all the bigwigs are taking a squiz at it. So they've got one. It's there. It's in its colors, and it looks pretty damn neat.
Legit.
Yeah.
It's time for some aviation motivation. So let me tell you where this idea came from. And obviously, a lot of these ideas are born out of other interests. And one of the interests I'm sure you've seen on the show is the motivational angle of the podcast has always been there. It's always been sort of, I would say, a core principle in the background as to what we've spoken about on the show. I am taking it one step further now, and I'm trying to combine two of my, I would say, core principles together. And obviously the one being the motivational angle, but the other being aviation and aviation principles. How can we use our aviation principles in everyday life? And this week, the topic of discussion is continuous learning. Airline pilots are required to attend simulator training at least twice a year. Just a normal line pilot will have to attend simulator training twice a year, often more. It's not something we do out of choice, it's mandatory. And here at the Sim Center, we see two types of candidates coming in for training. You get I would say the more common candidate where it's sort of the attitude is a little bit more of a tick box exercise. This is something that I have to do, so let me just go and get this done so I can leave and carry on with my everyday job. And then you get others that actually see it as a way to improve their craft and improve their skill. And obviously this is the type of pilot that we're very interested in, because it's quite evident in the simulator which side you fall on. Those pilots that see it as an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to get better, they certainly get more out of their simulator session. Now, every time you walk into a simulator, you're there to demonstrate your skills. And it's quite a daunting task for the non-aviators out there. You basically are putting your license, your degree on the line and going into the simulator and saying, okay, I need to now demonstrate my competency and I need to prove that I'm up to speed with the latest company standard operating procedures, any law changes that might have happened, or anything else that could possibly affect the safety of your operation. You have to go and prove that you are up to speed with these things. It's going to make us aware of any weaknesses that we might have prior to even going into the simulator. Pilots see these sessions as opportunities for growth, opportunities to make themselves even better, more competent, and able to deal with any eventuality in the flight deck, because that's the ultimate goal of training. The ability to go and prove, to the examiner or the instructor that you can do it, but far more importantly, prove to yourself that in this scenario, I can handle it and I know what to do. I've got the skills, the handling skills to do it. I've got the procedures so well known in the back of my head that I can actually go through those as a type of checklist. And I've got the decision-making skills through either a risk management model or a decision-making matrix, whatever you want to call it, to be able to go through a whole set of questions and get this aircraft back onto the ground in a safe manner. So that proving to yourself is a vital, vital part of the whole simulator process. But let's now take this out the simulator. So for the non-aviators out there, how can we use this principle in our everyday life? This continuous learning principle that airline pilots go through on a yearly basis. What if we approached challenges, big or small, with that same mindset? Seeing them as a simulator session for your own personal growth. By that meaning, right, if I really think about this session, if I really think about this thing that I have to do, how well prepared am I? Do I have the necessary skills? Do I have the knowledge behind me to go and actually achieve this task? And be honest with yourself. Am I 100% ready for this particular task? It could be a task in your current job. We all know what it's like. You get handed something that you have to do in your daily job, and it might be slightly out of our area of expertise. What could we do about it to up our knowledge on that particular task before we actually go and tackle it? Can we turn that anxiety into an empowering moment of possibility? Now, this is where a little bit of Stoic philosophy comes in here. Stoic philosophy, the idea that obstacles are opportunities. If you've ever had a look at Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way, fantastic book, highly recommend that you have a look at that book. If there is an obstacle there, instead of moving away from that obstacle, in other words, trying to avoid it, the Stoic philosophy is go towards it. See that obstacle as an opportunity. What opportunity? An opportunity for growth. That's what this is. That's what simulator training is, to try and get better. Well, if there's an obstacle in your way, instead of trying to avoid it, ignoring it, hoping someone else does it, see it as an opportunity. Go and tackle it. But don't just go into it blindly. We don't go into a simulator session blindly. We don't just arrive and say, okay, I'm just going to give this my best shot. I hope it goes well. We prepare. We make sure that we know the task. We know exactly what we're going to do. And then we prepare for it. And this is the same thing. So the big thing with simulator training is that it's a controlled environment. The simulator itself represents a real flight. The scenario that is either painted by your operator or the instructor is an actual scenario that probably happened. So it's a very controlled environment. Now, the same thing goes outside of aviation. What can we do to control the environment? Now, think about going into a big meeting. you might have to present something in that meeting. More often than not, we prepare on what we're going to say. But do we actually prepare the curveballs that get thrown our way? Now, think about it from an aviator's perspective. That's what we're preparing all the time. In the simulator, we know that we're going to be dealing with emergencies, fires, V1 engine failures, evacuations, all these curveballs. But those are the things that we actually prepared for. So in this case, going back to our meeting scenario, if we've got to go meet, present something to a board or do a presentation for your team, we prepare the presentation normally, but we don't necessarily in a business environment, at least what I've seen, prepare for the curveballs. What happens if someone asks me this? What happens if my HDMI cable doesn't work? What happens if there is distractions during the meeting? Am I able to pick up my place easy where I was? These are all curveballs that we can think about. Now, from an aviator's point of view, this is second nature. We're preparing for those things all the time, and not just preparing. We are actually planning for those things. We are anticipating that we will need to reject the takeoff. And if I do, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to apply maximum brakes, maximum reverse thrust, stop the aircraft, apply the park brake, assess the situation. We're planning on that. And if everything goes well, we won't need to reject the takeoff. We can take off as per normal. At V1, we're expecting your critical engine to fail. We're actually waiting for it to fail, and we're almost surprised when it doesn't. Okay, of course, this is taking it to the extreme, but this is the type of the thought process that an airline pilot would go through, particularly in a simulator scenario. And obviously, the good aviators take that into line flying. We're anticipating those things happening. And if you anticipate it, man, it is so much easier to deal with that emergency when it actually happens. So the art of preparation here is absolutely key. In that meeting, we are expecting a difficult question from the CEO or the project leader, but we've prepared the answer. If that answer is nice and crisp and clean and neat and covers the particular question that your boss was asking, the presentation's going to gain a bit of momentum. It's going to get better and better and better. So preparation falls heavily into this simulator training, continuous learning scenario that I'm talking about. Pilots do a lot of visualizing as well. I can't tell you how many times I've sat in a hotel chair if I've been doing my simulator training overseas, and I've sat there and I've visualized, I've made all the hand movements, the gestures with my hands and my feet. Take an engine failure scenario, you close your eyes, you go through it, you feel the yaw of the aircraft, you anticipate pushing a little bit of rudder pressure, getting the wings level, making sure the aircraft's in balance, and then you go through the calls that you're going to make in your head. And that visualizing is such an important thing. Going back to our presentation to our project team, the same thing would apply. Before you go into that meeting, visualize everything. Visualize the good things, but importantly, visualize those curveballs that could be thrown your way, and visualize the way that you want to handle those things. Visualization, a major part of simulator training. Another idea tied to simulator training and continuous learning is feedback loops. What we want to actually do is have our own feedback loops. How do we think that presentation went? How can we improve it next time? If you have a look at any one of these project management tools, all of them have a section there that deals with a sort of post-project brief. What areas were good? What areas weren't so good? And where can we improve? So a debriefing that we normally receive from the instructor can be used in a real life scenario. Break it down. Give yourself a debrief. Of course, you're not going to get one from an instructor after a presentation, but you can give yourself one. And if you have a colleague or someone that you trust, then ask them, how do you think that went? And then be very careful about not getting upset when they say, okay, well, you know, your public speaking is not good. There's lots of ums and ahs and things like that. You can get on the defensive because you think, geez, I thought I did really well, but this guy's giving me a whole lot of negative feedback. So we must see those things as positive things. And if there are areas that we can improve on, great. The obstacle is the way. Those are the things that I need to work on for the next one. And then, of course, go into the next one even more prepared because now you've got a bit of feedback. So these feedback loops that pilots get from a debriefing, a wonderful thing to use in your everyday life. Make your own debrief, write it down, be critical of your negative points, but also give yourself a tap on the back and say, I did well here, I was well prepared, and use those loops to get better next time. The more we do, the better we get at these things. And if we get good at doing presentations or public speaking or whatever it is that you want to use this principle for, over a bit of time, it becomes second nature. Just like these aviators coming for simulator training. They're not exactly arriving stressed and, worried about what's ahead because they've seen it all before. They know they can handle the situation. They know they can handle the engine fire after takeoff. They know how to make the correct decision. They know how to work with their team, their crew member, and how to bring all those elements into making the correct decision to get the aircraft on the ground safely. Well, the same goes with you over time. If you're dealing with something in your own life, business, relationships, whatever it is, the more we use these aviation principles, that, let's face it, aviation is the safest industry in the world. I think we almost downplay how amazing the aviation industry is in terms of what pilots actually achieve on an everyday basis. We don't even talk about it because it's just, okay, well, that's what they're supposed to do. But you might have even noticed how many famous people use aviation analogies when explaining their own line of work. They say, as pilots, they would have to do A, B, and C. These guys aren't even pilots, and they're using aviation for their own benefit, their own analogies and their own business. So let's boost aviation and say, well, it is a fantastic thing. The principles behind aviation are incredible. Let's adopt these things in our everyday life. And as pilots, we've got these things there already. It's easy. Just think about these principles, these things you do every day and say, okay, how can I actually manipulate this into my daily workflow? So that's it for continuous learning. Ultimately, continuous learning is a practice in resilience. It's the ability to keep adapting to situations, pushing boundaries, understanding our own limits, and then through a feedback loop, getting better the next time, making us more resilient. I hope you enjoyed this first little segment of aviation motivation and continuous learning.
So there was this old joke we used to throw around in the airline. If you haven't heard a rumor about a top of climb, you'd better start one. But don't worry about that. That's not what this episode is all about. It's funny though, because when I think back to all those cockpit conversations that we used to have, there were always a few topics that came up. It would be things like, what's your roster like for the rest of the month? How many hours you doing? Got any leave plans coming up? Or have you bought any cool gadgets lately? And then, of course, money would always come up in conversation, because why not? It's always something like, have you heard what's happening with salary increases? Are the union negotiations working out? Because money is a big part of everyone's life. But in aviation, the conversations are fascinating because you meet people that have completely different attitudes towards it. You get the ultra responsible types, and it's usually the older captains that are nearing retirement, meticulously paying attention to their investments and managing their savings to make sure that they set up for the rest of life, especially after the age of 65. And then you get the reckless ones, which would probably be me. I'd fall quite easily into that group, where we sort of had our live today for today motto and had severe FOMO and, sort of lived by the creed of you only live once, so you might as well just get what you want. And a sort of joke amongst a lot of my peers at that stage was, he who dies with the most toys wins. But fast forward to now, 2025, and over the recent holidays, took a break and found myself scratching around for something interesting to read or to watch. And that's when I stumbled into this world of finance. And all these charts with their candlestick patterns, bulls and bears, buying low, selling high. It's always intrigued me. I've always found it fascinating. Watched those business-like people reading the newspapers with these intrinsic graphs and all the information and jargon that goes on there. And I kind of like looked at it the same way a non-aviator would, look at a jet chart with the same amount of confusion as and wondering, like, how the hell do you understand what's going on with all of that? So got me thinking, why not take a sort of a deep dive into this a little bit more? I figured, let me take the opportunity this year to have a look at this, study it up a bit, and then at the same time just share it with everyone on the podcast. So welcome to this new little segment of the podcast that we're going to kick into for this year, and I'm going to call it the Flight Plan Financial. So here's the deal. I'm not about to start giving financial advice. This is far from it. But I thought this could be a fun way to explore some concepts. Let's learn something new and maybe spark some conversations, because there's a lot happening in the financial world right now, as well as just the world in general. There's a lot of political events that I think influence this kind of stuff. So it's going to have a lot of us paying attention to what's happening in the news. We've got young pilots that are starting their careers, earning decent salaries and wondering what's the best way to save or invest. On the other hand, the pilots who had their careers reset by the COVID pandemic are now in catch-up mode, figuring out how to secure their retirement. So it got me thinking that there's some potential here to explore smart ways to manage money. And, why not talk about it on our aviation podcast so that we can make it relevant to pilots? Whether you're just starting out or trying to make up for some lost time, remember when Bitcoin and crypto first hit the scene in 2012, thereabouts? It was always a fascinating conversation in the cockpit. We spent hours debating whether this was like a legit thing. Some colleagues went all in and they did really well. That conversation hasn't entirely gone away. It's just one example of how finance and aviation actually intersect. So yeah, this year I'm going to dig into it. I'm going to explore everything from investing to saving strategies, and I'm just going to share what I find here on the podcast. It's going to be simple, it's going to be interesting, and hopefully a lot of fun. And hey, if you've got more expertise in this area, I'd love to hear from you. Let's make this a two-way street. I hope you enjoy these new Flight Plan Financial segments. I'm going to really enjoy diving into this topic because I do find it fascinating. And let's just see where this goes. So thanks for listening. And as always, we'll catch you on the next one.
No listener comments because this is our first show back since the break. But there is some cool stuff going on this weekend. Serious UFC this weekend. A Sunday morning.
Yeah.
You get up for this one. It'll be about 7 in the morning, I think. Islam Makhachev, Arman Sarukian, the main fight. But then the co-main is Mirab Makanat-Davalishvili against Umar Nurmagomedov, which is Khabib, who got kicked off the flight's cousin.
Okay.
Those Russian guys, they all come from Dagestan. Dagestan is like, if you don't fight, it's like a fighters. That's where fighters grow up.
Yeah.
So
tough there.
Umar is coming from there, and then a light heavyweight fight before those mains, Yuri Prohaska, Jamal Hill. That's a really, really good fight as well. So Sunday morning, make sure you're not doing anything. Get up early with the kids to watch that one. It's going to be good.
I'd have to watch my time there because Sunday evening I'm going to be at the Calabash.
Oh, really?
Going to go and rock it to Offspring and Green Day.
No way.
Yeah.
Serious?
Yeah, I've got tickets.
Offspring and Green Day? No way.
Yeah.
Hey, shot for the invite.
I only found about it last minute, but I'd actually forgotten about it. I've got tickets last year and didn't realize it was this weekend.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
I'm acting like going would have been an option, but like I know it wouldn't be. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed the show, give us a thumbs up. If you have a question, leave a comment below. And if you want to see more videos like this, and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for listening, and Paul, thanks for being here.
Awesome, cuz. Look forward to a good one this year.
Have a good weekend.
Take it easy.
Bye for now.